Man, I'm glad you're here. Some business came up I gotta handle. So we're gonna have to put our trip on hold. You understand?
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Just for a couple of weeks.
I understand.
Yeah. Maybe a little longer.
Yeah, whatever.
Look, I'll call you next week and we'll iron out the details. Okay?
Yeah.
It was great seeing you, son.
You too, Lou.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Will.
You know what? Actually, this works out better for me. You know, the Slimmies of summer come to class wearing next to nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Will, it's all right to be angry.
Hey, why should I be mad? I'm saying at least he said goodbye this time. I just wish I hadn't wasted my money buying this stupid present.
I'm sorry. If there was something that I
Hey,
could
you know
do.
what? You ain't got to do nothing, Uncle Phil. Hey, ain't like I'm still 5 years old, you know? Ain't like I'm gonna be sitting up every night asking my mom, when's Daddy coming home, you know? Who needs him? Hey, he wasn't there to teach me how to shoot my first basket, but I learned, didn't I? Hey, I got pretty damn good at it too, didn't I,
Yeah,
Uncle Phil?
you did.
Got through my first day without him, right? I learned how to drive, I learned how to shave, I learned how to fight without him. I had 14 great birthdays without him. He never even sent me a damn card. To hell with him! I ain't need him then and I don't need him now.
Will.
Now, you know what, Uncle Phil? I'm gonna get through college without him. I'm gonna get a great job without him. I'm gonna marry me a beautiful honey, and I'm having me a whole bunch of kids. I'm gonna be a better father than he ever was. And I sure as hell don't need him for that, because ain't a damn thing he could ever teach me about how to love my kids. How come he don't want me, man?
We are our Father's sons and daughters, but we are not their choices. For despite their absences, we are still here, still alive, still breathing, with the power to change this world, one little boy and one little girl at a time. Would you join me in prayer really quickly? Heavenly Father, I am humbled by the opportunity that you placed before me. Make me small and make your message big. Lord, I pray that you may give me the ability to bring an issue that many of us put in a blind spot, even just to the peripheral vision for one. Lord, have your way. In your Son's precious name I pray. Amen. Amen. Today I have the absolute privilege of talking to you about an issue that transcends multiple disciplines. When you hear the great psychologists speak about family structure, they touch the issue of fatherhood and fatherlessness. When you hear the experts in gender studies who talk about masculinity and femininity and what it means to be a man in the context of a family, they talk about fatherhood and about fatherlessness. When you hear the experts that are great about child development and parenting skills and the holistic development of a child, they talk about the necessity of the presence of a father. This is a local issue in Sacramento. It's a statewide issue in California. It's a national issue that has even got the attention of our president, who is fatherless. He actually said that what men are, is necessary for the family unit, but we have to admit that what men are is missing. Amen. And I'm an example to tell you that it goes beyond the boundaries of this country all the way to other countries far away. But why is this issue important to you? Well, if Will Smith or Phil Banks, or the movie didn't tug at your heart a little bit, maybe the numbers will. Because if you think about it, the most recent census said that 24.7 million with an M children in the United States are from a family without their biological father. Of that number, 20.3 million with an M are in households that are mother only. And if Phil Banks and Will Smith and those numbers didn't get to you, let me bring it a little closer to home. 57.2% of the African American children are from mother-only households. That is more than 1 in 2. So when we look around in this room right here, more than 1 in 2 of us came up with the void of a father. Can you imagine what's going on outside of these walls? But as we think about those numbers, some of us can take those numbers and yeah, they're just census numbers. I may not be part of the 24.7 million, but those numbers don't tell the whole story. Many researchers before me represented fatherlessness as something in relation to a societal ill. So they would describe fatherlessness, 71% of high school dropouts, fatherless kids. 85% of incarcerated youth, fatherless kids. Fatherless children are 5 times more likely to be involved in substance abuse, fatherless children. 75% chance of hitting poverty before age 11 as compared to 25% if you're from a dual parent household. Powerful, powerful numbers. But as I think about it, behind those numbers are people. And you can never get the whole story if you just look at the numbers. So behind those numbers are single mothers who day in, day out come to work, paddling on the water really hard, and to us they look like they're swans. Behind those numbers are little kids that are asking, when is daddy coming home? Behind those numbers are fathers who live in a society that years ago told them that their virility and their ability to provide was a measure of their masculinity, and therefore they lived it out with distant relationships from their children. And behind those numbers are some of the same men who carry guilt at having lived and walked in that way. But why is this important to me? You see, I was Will Smith. I wish I was Will Smith. But I'm the person that had the disappointment. I'm the person that had the expectations. But I think I could really let you understand the impact if I just told. Can I be a storyteller for a second? Can I tell a story? Let me get on my storyteller chair. I feel like a teacher up here. So come with me. Come with me on this journey. I could hear the footsteps coming down the hallway. As they got closer, they got louder, and I could hear the obscenities being hurled my way. I sat in the furthest corner of the bedroom, knees to my chest, and I rocked, scared of what was going to happen next. Suddenly, the door flew open, and there he was. His eyes were bloodshot red, every muscle in his body tensed, and I could tell from the look in his eyes that he had already had several beers, some rum, and maybe some gin. "Who do you think you are?" He yelled at me. I said nothing. "You see this? I'm going to wipe your stomach out with this." And I looked up to see in his hand, which was clenched into a fist, a 9-inch knife that I recognized from the kitchen. But I'd never seen it in this context. And I believed him. I believed every word he said that he would hurt me. And so I sat in the corner and I put my knees to my chest as if to protect the very stomach that he said he was going to wipe out. And I never said a word. I didn't cry because I didn't want unnecessary attention. And as he slowly walked away, I had an emotional letdown. You see, that was not acting. That's the story of a 6-year-old boy. It is against that backdrop that I have built my insights about fatherhood. I told my mother that I was going to have 2 sons and I was going to be the best dad ever. Amen. And then I set off on a journey of achievement. I called myself an achievement junkie because I was so determined to make it. My mother never had to tell me to do homework because I was on it. She didn't have to tell me to practice because I was on it. And so all the degrees later, all of the great jobs later, at 30 years old, I stood in front of a mirror on the day of my birthday, and all of the questions were different. You see, when I thought about it, when I pulled it out from under the carpet, I used to ask myself, what was wrong with my dad? Why couldn't he love? Why have to be so horrible? And that morning, the questions were different. When I looked in the mirror, I said, what was wrong with you? Why couldn't he love you? Were you a terrible son? And it broke me down. And I went through a period of dealing with my own anger and frustration and really unpacking everything about my life. And I made a commitment to understanding and truly understanding, not just talking it, but walking the understanding of the people behind the numbers. And when I had my first son, and I realized there were several things that came to me naturally that shouldn't. And there were a few things that didn't come to me naturally that should. And I said, there's got to be something to having the model of positive male citizenship in the home to help you understand how to operate in the context of a family. And so I went on a journey, and I started to study fatherless men. Because all the numbers you can talk about, all the dropout rates and all of the substance abuse rates, if you want to break the cycle, you got to get to the core of the issue, which is the fatherless man. Because if he wants to break the cycle, that's who you got to get to.
That's right.
So I studied them. I talked to them. I talked to CEOs of companies and presidents of universities. And I talked to Bloods and Crips. But funny enough, we met. All met in the same place, and we had the same story. And so I recall some of the conversations. I remember sitting across the table from a Crip. He was all tatted. He was still wearing an ankle monitor. And he said, I struggled so hard to escape being like my father, but his imperfections became my own. And the reason why he said that was a story he described to me was he came home from a football practice and his mother said something to him and he mouthed off to his mother and his dad popped him in the mouth because his dad was in the home but just emotionally distant. And as a 16-year-old football player, he responded by popping his dad back for the first time ever. And so he said, oh my God, and he ran out the house. His dad called him back and said, come on in. He said, no, you're going to kill me. He said, no, come on in. I'll never put my hands on you again. The lesson he learned that day is through physical violence, I get respect. And therefore, he exacted that on people on the streets because that is how he gained the respect from the one person that he wanted it. And then there was David, a 42-year-old man who told me that he met his dad for the first time when he met his dad for the first time when he was 42. I talked to him when he was 52. And he said when he called his dad for the first time in his 20s, his dad said, did you go to college? He said, no, I'm in a vocational school. And his dad said, well, the men in my family go to college, and hung up the phone on him. Wow. But he said something really profound to me. He said, listen, I'm a believer in God. And when Jesus was standing in the water and the voice came from the heavens, it said, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. And he said to me, if Jesus, a perfect man, needed the affirmation of his Father, What do our imperfect children need? Then there was Malcolm. Witnessed his father murder his mom when he was 12. So one day he lost both parents because he had to testify against his father. The shining moment in his life was walking his dad after the release from prison in through his front door to meet his sons. I know Jesus did a great job with forgiveness. He paid a heavy cost. But I think that was number 2 of forgiveness on my list, because I thought that was something that was so difficult to do. I was speaking to an audience on Thursday, and a lady came up to me afterwards, and she said, I'm a widow of 23 years. 23 years ago, my husband was an athlete, big guy. My son, at 10 years old, was almost 6 feet tall, an aspiring athlete. And my husband was really hard on him. Man up, be a man, play defense. In a basketball game, a high schooler got around him and his dad got into him. The next day, as she was driving him to school, he said to her, Mom, you know, Dad really hurt my feelings last night. He really got into my skin, he really hurt my feelings. And she said, you know, I know that your dad loves you. But let's talk to him tonight so that he can clarify for you and let you know that. Father was killed in a car crash that day. Never got the opportunity to say, well done, son. 3 words that I have lived my life in search of. I just wanted somebody to tap me on the shoulder and say, well done, son. That's all I wanted. I didn't need great job. I just wanted well done, son. Just based on the effort. If I lost the game, I wanted well done, son. If I didn't do well on the exam, I wanted great effort, well done, son. That's all I needed. But I never got it. But there's redemption. What these men taught me was about an environment of desensitization. That's what I call it. But what it means is that simply that behind what we call a deadbeat dad, I hold the society responsible for that. Behind every deadbeat dad is a deadbeat environment. One that says to men, it's okay and normal for you to walk. One that allows men to say, as they told me, that's what moms and grandmas do. One that says, man up, leave your emotions behind. Don't show emotions. These men taught me about the fact that they believed that they were susceptible to repeating the cycle because of the lack of a model. But they also told me that they had an intense desire to be different for their sons. But nobody has told them that they don't have to be a better him. You just got to be the best you.
All right. That's right.
You don't need to be a better him. Just the best you. Because you see, I went to motorcycle school, and as I was going through the cone farm for the first time, riding through the cones, I bit it real hard on a motorcycle. And the coach ran out to me. He said, what was the matter? I said, I don't know. I thought I was doing it right. He said, what were you looking at? I said, I was looking at the cones. He said to me, listen, if you go through this thing looking at the cones or the obstacles, guess what you're going to hit? You need to focus your energy on between the obstacles. So if I live my life simply saying all the time, I'm going to be better than him, I'm going to be better than him, I'm going to be better than him, what am I looking at? I'm looking at the obstacles, and I'm just restricting myself from being the best me. But like I said, there's redemption. One of the lessons that I got from these men is, listen, you have to seek emotional closure from the source. From the source. And here I am, This guy doing this research, this doctor sitting across the table from anybody telling me that you need to go to the source. And I'm just like, you don't know nothing about this. You don't know about this. You don't know the hatred that I have. But for 15 years, I traveled from here to Barbados in pursuit of forgiveness of my father. I went home every year saying, I'd buckle my seatbelt. It was like clockwork. Buckle your seatbelt. Clicks. This is the year I'm going to forgive him. And I'd fly home. Within 20 seconds of meeting him, he would do something and I would say, this ain't the year. This is not the year. Last year I went home. And the first day, like always, I went to his house, and as I got to his house, his sister was leaving his home. And she was locking the door, and I said, where's my dad? She said, he was just committed to the psychiatric hospital. He had a relapse of drinking. And I said, okay, this ain't the year. But on the last day that I was there on my trip, I typically am so busy on the last day because you want to see all family members. But on the last day, nobody would answer my phone calls. Nobody would take my phone calls. Everybody was too busy to do something. I got to work. You on vacation, but I'm working. And I had 4 hours free of nothing to do. And I was driving, and I kept telling myself, I ain't going to no hospital. I ain't going to no hospital. I ain't going to no hospital. I have to turn on turn signal. I ain't going to no hospital. And I ended up in a psychiatric hospital, and I saw my father across the way, and I went over to him and I reintroduced myself. And I said, why are you here? And he said to me, man, it's the drinks. And I said, what are you going to do about the people around you that make these drinks available for you? And it's like he didn't hear what I said, because he started to describe the type of funeral he wanted. He said to me, look, Dave, give me a simple box. I don't want any bells and whistles. Give me a simple service. You don't need to bury me in the fancy cemetery. You could bury me in the church cemetery. I don't want a lot of people there. And I was like, this time out. I'm trying to talk to you about how you're going to live. You're telling me how you want to die. And as he started to answer, my mind raced off because now I wasn't hearing what he was saying, because something struck me. For all the years that I went back, I saw him as someone who in his alcoholism made a terrible choice to mess up his family. He made a choice. You had option A and option B, and you chose option A. That's your problem. But at that moment, I looked at it and I said, 19 years of two phenomenal sons and all of their potential. The most, no offense to the ladies in here, the most amazing woman on the planet in my mother. And a lifestyle that he never, ever recovered. Nobody ain't gonna do that on purpose. Nobody ain't gonna give that up on purpose. And it came to me that, you know what, this is being done involuntarily. And maybe what people have been trying to tell me for years about this being a disease might be true. And if it is, who am I to judge? And I said to him, and I pulled him close and I said to him, listen, regardless of everything that has happened between you and I forgive you and I love you. Amen. And that was the first time in my 39 years of living that those 3 words, I love you, were used in the conversation with my father. And I've not seen him since.
When troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. Stormy seas, I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
As I was on this race of life, and I'm still on it, there are many moments when my emotional muscles were torn, my physical muscles and body was depleted, but my spiritual muscles were also torn. And I longed for a father that would just do anything to be able to put his hand on my shoulder and say, "Well done, son." And that's why I live my life today committed to making sure those two boys that you saw on my side will never go a day without knowing that I love them, and there will never go a day with me acknowledging to them that they are amazing and that they are awesome and that whatever they did was well done.